time, people counting me out, put their mouth on me, I moved in self-doubt. I come to know it's not what they say, but what I believe, that God's my faith. I don't need you to validate me. I know who I am. I'm created to be a light that reflects what my eyes dare to see, all the greatness I possess, endless possibility. Look in the mirror, what do I see? There is no time or any space for the outside noise that run the rat race. Poisonous lips spewing self-hate, evictions and killings, they all resemble my face. Rise up in love, take your rightful place. You're a royal priesthood and you were born this way. And we must fight our way through the darkest night. Guide us to reflect on that infinite light. Welcome to another segment of Seek Elevation. I'm so happy to be here this Tuesday. I am, of course, yours truly, attorney Elakisha. Seek Elevation, the Seek Elevation experience is where we will talk about, real issues, real people, real conversations will take center stage, because change does not happen in silence. We'll talk about things from sports and entertainment to business and community. We'll just break down the truth, spark meaningful change, and elevate voices that need to be heard. In this space, though, we don't just talk, we empower, we inspire, and we challenge the status quo. So whether you're an athlete, you're an entertainer, a business leader, or someone just striving for a better life, this or all of these conversations is for you. And the conversations that we have, we may agree on a lot of the topics, we may disagree on a lot of the topics. Regardless of what, in between that space, we should all be open and willing to learn from our conversations. If we're not willing to learn from our conversations, then it's not a conversation. It is a fool's man tongue wrestle, is what I call it, or fool's woman tongue wrestle. Let's learn from it, have emotional intelligence as much as we possibly can in any topic that we're talking about. I just have an insatiable appetite to learn. So I've learned that I have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. I've really worked hard on really listening and engaging in the speaking part where it makes sense, when I think I have enough of information that I need, or when the dialogue calls for it. But emotional intelligence, being willing to listen, willing to learn, willing to grow. So I just found out so I am live on all platforms. That's one. I knew that. That's not what I just found out. But I'm live on all platforms. And I made sure on IG, I hit live this time. So I am live on Seek Elevation Instagram page. I am live on Seek Elevation YouTube page. I'm live on Seek Elevation Facebook page and on LinkedIn. However, I just learned that as far as engagements and comments being made, that's only able to happen through YouTube and Instagram and the Facebook page. You cannot do it through, you can't do it through Instagram, the Seek Elevation Instagram page, and you cannot do it through the LinkedIn page. You're only able to listen. So you're not even able to engage in a dialogue if you had a comment, or even if you wanted to come up on stage to share something. You can't do it on those two platforms. But on YouTube, if you ever do want to comment, you want your comments to be seen, something that you want me to look at and possibly share, you have to go to YouTube in order to watch the live stream, or you have to go to the Facebook page to watch the live stream. Those two do allow for engagements. I went on LinkedIn from the last episode and seen it was like 166 views. I know out of 166 individuals, people will want to share something, right? People will want to share, way more people. I believe it was 2 individuals that shared. So if you do want to share, please go over to the YouTube Seek Elevation, and that's ELLA-vation, Seek Elevation YouTube page, or the Seek Elevation Facebook page, and then you can add comments. Otherwise, you will be viewing, which I don't. I want us to engage, because this podcast, that's what we're in season 3. Before, it was pre-recorded. I did interviews, I shared nuggets, and you were able to view. You were able to view it and listen on all streaming platforms. It's also on there. But now this season, I want to start engaging us in dialogue. We have to start talking. It is a must. We see the climate around us. We see it. And a lot of us, we're talking with our fingers. And it's very dangerous. Shots are fired with fingers. Sometimes you can't put emotion with it. You put your own emotion to it. Sometimes people get really bold behind computers and won't say things in front of each other. And I only say that to say, because sometimes we're talking in front of each other, possibly we will bring down the defensiveness, possibly. Some people won't. It is what it is. But we can start hearing each other. I want to encourage that. That's what I really want to do. I want to encourage. And I also want some individuals to go on the platforms where you could comment to, just in case I have audio issues and you can't hear me. I would definitely want to make sure I'm not going so long and you all cannot hear me. So those who are on IG, those who are on LinkedIn, if there's ever an issue, please come over. And those who are attending on Facebook and YouTube, please let me know. So tap in, pull in live today. We already know what the topic is. We already know the cost of silence and why every platform matters. The objective for me for this conversation tonight is to just explore, the impact of staying silent. It's staying silent through changes, through injustices, just staying silent. And why speaking up matters. And more importantly, for me, how athletes, entertainers, community leaders, we're used to the community leaders, right? Can use their voices to create real change. But there's kind of a twist to it. So I want you to listen carefully, because staying silent, right? Sometimes that just doesn't mean in your words. It's also in your actions. To me, silence can be not speaking literally, and not speaking by what you do. As an athlete, for instance, and I always compare just my life, the way I move in life, with the same way that I moved as an athlete, because one affected the other. There's a lot of times that I spoke up, and it wasn't with my mouth. I wasn't all this, in your face type, athlete talking trash. I spoke with my legs. I spoke with my commitment. I spoke with executing. I spoke with doing the things that some people probably didn't believe I could do. I spoke up. I didn't stay silent. I didn't fold. I didn't not accomplish those things. That's not speaking up. That's staying silent and crumbling and not accomplishing things that people don't believe you can. I spoke up with my legs. So when I say the impact of speaking up, I'm looking at it from different areas. But I'm also speaking about using your platform and speaking. And the reason why I want to also talk about that, because I hear a lot of times throughout my life, of course, I hear that, athletes, entertainers, be quiet. You shouldn't be speaking. Just run, just dribble the ball, just throw the ball, just hit the ball, whatever it is, or just go act, just go sing, just go do all these things. And I do strongly believe that if the speaking you're going to do is with your mouth, then yes, you should educate yourself. You should prepare yourself on what you're speaking, right? Don't just go out and use a platform and speak and not inform yourself, because now you're abusing the platform. But I do believe as you prepare yourself, use your platforms that you have to effectuate change. A lot of times individuals are fine with athletes speaking or entertainers speaking if it's perpetuating something that is negative, something that can take us down, something that can twist our minds, something that can keep our minds limited. All of a sudden, it's fine. But when those platforms are used to literally effectuate change, it's a huge problem. So we have to see something there in that. That means they matter. Every voice matter, especially the platforms matter, because that is huge, especially if you have a powerful platform. And I'm going to bring somebody on a little later who is a decorated athlete, someone I've known for a very long time. I do not know if her views are aligned with mine or not. That wasn't a question for me. I just wanted to bring someone on who is an athlete, understands one, just the sacrifice of being an athlete, but also someone that, from me being around her, is someone that is boisterous, someone that educates herself. We've had deep conversations before, right? So it's not about her getting on here to say if athletes should or shouldn't. I just want to hear it. I'm going to let you know how I'm starting off is that I do believe that as athletes, as entertainers, as business leaders, staying silent is not it. And preparing yourself to speak up is. And I'm going to get into a story that's near and dear to me because I am a track athlete, like I just said. But before I do that, I do, again, want to welcome you all. And I just want to throw this out there that, history is going to remember those who stood up, not those who stay silent. And there is a price to it. So I want to get to a story. I believe there's a price to staying silent. And we've had a history of those who were not. And those contributions help to move us forward. There's a lot of times we talk about, of course, the same historical figures. I respect very, very much so. But we stay on the same ones. We'll talk about them. But you know what we don't do? We don't dive in deeper to look at the support that they actually had. Who was supporting them in their plight? And if you really do your history and you really study, you'll see that it was athletes and entertainers that supported civil rights leaders. And when I say entertainers, I'm not just talking about, we had actors, right? I'm also talking about authors. We had so many people, singers. We have so many people that were supporting change. And because they had a platform, whether it was a physical platform, monetary platform, or the platform of uniting people, because one thing that is a common uniter is sports and entertainment. We can feel whatever about each other, but if we are rooting for the same team, we're screaming at the same time. If we love the same singer, actor, we're in it, movies, it pulls us in. It is a universal voice. And so that's why it can be a very effectuous thing, is when we use that platform, meaning the people, the unity. Our issue is division. And I want to talk about real quickly, before I bring this guest on, I want to start here because I'm in track, she's in track. I want to talk about in the late 1960s. We know a lot of things from then, right? And the one thing I believe about our history is to learn from it, not to stay stuck in it. History is about crumbs, picking up things, their ingredients. For me, this is me. I see their ingredients and I'm baking and making something amazing. And I have all these ingredients that I'm supposed to use to make something, not to keep those ingredients parsed, separated, crumbled, and never make anything from it. And so I said to say, okay, in late 1960s, during the civil rights movement, there was actually three men that stood on a podium in Mexico City. Two of those men had their fist raised in silent defiance, right? Silence as in words, but of course, using their body at that time. Tommie Smith, an American sprinter, became one of the most iconic figures at that time. And both in the world and in social justice in general, used his platform, his stance, his notoriety to stand for something. And what happened on that podium was not just a victory, right, for him and him standing there getting that medal, but it was for a greater cause. And it did, it caused him tremendous heartache afterwards. Not even heartache, but trouble. I remember I went to an event and they were talking about, or Tommy was talking about John, and they were talking about the situation and what happened after there. What happened after John Carlos, Tommie Smith, what happened after they did that? Their whole life was turned upside down. People were very, very angry. So the platform matters. No one's going to get angry. No one's going to try to turn your life upside down if they don't feel that what you're doing and how you're doing it can affect anything. No one cares. When there's a lot of anger, then they understand what can happen. It can be unity. But you know what people don't talk about? That third person that's on the podium? When I did my research a while ago, I was doing my research on all of it, and I read that the young man, the one that's standing on the podium with John and Tommy, the white gentleman, that was his gloves. He gave each of them one of his gloves, and they wore his gloves. No one knows. Well, I can't say no one knows, but a lot of people don't talk about that part. And so that within itself, right? You have these athletes. There's unity in there. Here, I'm going to give you this, and I'm going to give you this. And it was at a time where there was defiance in the face of just racism. And you had this white male, two black males, and it was actually unity going on that podium. So being an athlete is more than just about running, throwing the ball, catching the ball, getting in the hoop. It's about a gift that you're given to use to effectuate change. I believe any gift that we're given, it is to be used to effectuate change. How you do that may look different. Again, I'm not saying everyone needs to get behind a mic. Everyone needs to stand on a platform. I'm not saying that. I'm saying use your gift. Another way to use your gift, I was doing research and I read when Angela Davis got arrested, Aretha Franklin was going to post bail for her. Using platform, money, finances, positioning. I will post her bail. I will do this because one, what she said, knows what it's like to be locked up. But two, I know that disruption has to happen for change to happen. So I got your back. I will post bail. She ended up not having to do that, the entertainer, because she inspired someone else who heard her say that and what she was willing to do. It was this farmer, developer, or somebody. He ended up posting the bail, and he mentioned, I was absolutely moved by Aretha Franklin's willingness and words. But If you leave it up to individuals, Aretha Franklin should have just stuck to singing, blow those pipes, make me feel good. I'm not listening to you. You're an entertainer. Stay in your place. That's not where you belong. But obviously we've seen it was because one, she was going to use her position, but two, she inspired someone else to step up and use their material wealth, their stance, their positioning, well-off farmer developer to bail out Angela. And so that's why I believe that we shouldn't stay silent. And I also believe, when I say we, I'm speaking of any individual, any person, even when business owners, when you're in a position financially, don't stay silent. Find a cause and a reason to contribute to it. I know there's probably some people listening on LinkedIn. The one thing that I hear a lot on LinkedIn is because there's a lot of conversations, political conversations. And the part that really hurts my heart is political division. But there's political conversations, and sometimes individuals will come on there and say, this is LinkedIn. Please go to Facebook. Take the political talks off of LinkedIn. But everything we do is politics. As an athlete, I dealt with politics. If you're in entertainment, you're dealing with politics. And if you're in business, it's politics. Actually, the decisions, the legislations, things that we're passing has a lot to do with business functions. There's no separation of that. What we're really saying is we're not having fruitful, meaningful, respectful dialogue on LinkedIn. Please take that somewhere else. That's what we should be saying. It's okay to talk about politics because you can't parse that out. But what it's not okay to do, right, is to not listen and to just be emotionally charged instead of emotionally intelligent, to learn from one another, right, to try to dismantle these limiting beliefs. That's what I'm really hearing when I say individuals. I'm hoping, because we have so many great business leaders on there, and I know everyone understands that we cannot not talk about politics when we're talking about business, because business is politics. But what we can do is do it from a highly intelligent perspective. All right, so that was that story. I want to just talk about a little bit quickly with Tommy and John Carlos, and I wanted to definitely just intersect that it was those two who use their platform, but that one man that was right, that I gave them his gloves for each of them to wear, was a part of that protest too. That means I am with you and support you as well. And that type of energy and action inspired other people along the way. Of course, we know about Muhammad Ali. If you look at Martin Luther King, if you look at Malcolm X, anyone that you throw up in their pocket that was holding their back, that was holding their feet, it was some type of athlete or entertainer. All right. So as I keep talking, I'm going to get ready to invite the guests that I want to come on. Send a link here. And while we wait for her, if there's any comments, you can put them in. Unfortunately, if you're on a platform that there are no comments, you could possibly leave them later, but I am going to try to decide how I'm going to move forward with the other platforms. I want to still do all platforms because I want people to be able to sit down, relax, and digest from their favorite platform. But I do also want to encourage dialogue. So I'm really going to figure out, what I want to do there. But speaking of individuals, right? So these are diverse athletes, diverse entertainers. Let us not just focus on, because a lot of times, and we're going to be honest, right? Because we said real conversations here. A lot of times when we say, athletes or entertainers or whoever is using their platform, we may think just of Black athletes or Black entertainers. Yes, we have that, but we had a plethora of white athletes, white entertainers who have used their platforms. And other than white or Black, but just athletes who have used their platforms for the bigger cause. Billie Jean King, tennis player, someone who's a great activist, use her platform for, social injustice to make sure there is justice. Um, there's so many different individuals that have used their platform. Frank Sinatra. So when you had entertainers where, and this is how you know it's the great equalizer, right? Even at a time where there was division, you were allowed to perform in the same buildings. Now, you may have been treated differently before you got on that stage, but that equalizer was that performance, that entertainment to make us, laugh, feel good, whatever it is. Before you got there was different treatment. Frank Sinatra was someone who was like, no, anyone who's performing when I'm performing, where I'm performing, we're going to go through the same door. We're going to get equal treatment. So using the platform as an entertainer, well-known one, using the platform effectuated change. And it's the small changes that added up to bigger changes. We're just looking at it from the other end. All right, the guest is on here. Give me 1 second. I'm going to put on my headphones because I don't know if you speak, you will hear yourself through the mic. So I'm going to actually switch to the headphones.
Oh, can you hear me?
I can. I hear you
Oh,
through the. And you can you hear yourself when you just said that before I turn my headphones on?
I didn't hear myself. No.
Oh, you sound good. So I could keep this. I don't have to put the headphones. So while you're
Yeah, no,
talking,
it's no feedback.
no feedback. All
Yeah.
right. I like it like this.
Hello, hello, hello.
Yes, yes. Hello, Momo. Hello, Monique. How are you
Hi.
doing? You
Fine.
see
Good
that?
to see you.
Same here. You all see that tag. You see Monique Hennagan, Olympian. And because of tag, she didn't want to feel it so long. I mean, world champion, multiple, like it can go on and on and on.
Thank
But
you.
more importantly, just a very intelligent woman. And so I respect her to share her views, whatever they are. Again, that's how we learn. And someone who has literally, dedicated herself in the sport, really dedicated herself on the track and off the track, and still have conversations just about how we can get better on the track, as far as business wise as well. I really wanted to bring her in to have your opinion. All right, Monique. So we're talking about the cost of silence, why every platform matters. And of course, I talked about athletes, entertainers, business leaders. So not just civil icons or someone who they look at as a politician should just be speaking, but anyone who has a platform to not be silent. And silence, I was saying, wasn't just in words, but in actually using your platform, whether that's monetarily, whether that's the people that you can gather and make unity instead of division, or if you prepare yourself and educate yourself, then also in using your voice. But what is your opinion as far as athletes or entertainers, athletes in particular, using their platform to effectuate change?
First of all, thank you for having me, and thank you for continuing to do such great things and utilizing your platform. Um, so I was able to listen in on a little bit of it, and I absolutely feel like I know you've heard the saying, and it could be cliche, to whom much is given, much is required. And I look at it as like when you speak and when you have a platform, that usually means you have followers. And you change one life, you can change generations. I look at my background and my grandfather and what he instilled, my grandparents as a unit, what they did for their generations. That was one man, one woman, and the impact that they had on now over 100 people, who are continuing to have make influence and change and be great people. Like that one, changing one life can change the trajectory of a whole generation. So it's like, even if it's not an athletic platform, um, just being able to be where you are and be intentional about how you speak, how you use who you are to influence others. Um, Now, I did hear you say something about, you know, abusing your platform. So I do believe that you should be intentional about what you are putting out there, being making sure that you're trying to influence people in positive ways and being productive and not taking, you know, um, taking things backwards or moving things backwards, using it
Right.
in a way that's non-productive and, you know, divisive and things like that. But I absolutely think that it's important. I got a chance to watch Court of Gold. It's the documentary executively produced by Michelle and Barack and like 20 other people, but it's on it's on
I
it's
think I've
on
seen
one of
it.
the platforms, and it's about the Olympic men's basketball team in Paris. And one thing that really stuck with me was Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant got really emotional when he like this. He's like the all-time basketball Olympian, all-time scorer. Like he has the most goals. He has 4 goals. And to hear him talk about what that experience did for him personally, he said, I grew up in this neighborhood and where neighbors didn't talk to each other. And he just kind of he grew up in hard situations, but he got emotional as he talked about playing in an arena where you have people
Yeah.
from all different countries cheering people on, laughing, talking to each other, all for one common cause, like enjoying sport,
Yes.
loving on each other. And you know, though there's competition, there was that beauty in seeing people come together and celebrate each other. And that was so like for him, like he literally cried tears because that's how much it moved him. So for that, something like that to move him, imagine his platform and talking to somebody who wasn't exposed the way that he was exposed. Like, you know, the experiences we had as athletes, it opened us up to so much more. You grow up in this little box of people that you know, but the more you expand, the more you see is out there, the more you want to reach for different goals and see this is available to me, that's available to me. It just opens up so much more with that exposure, and you using that platform to influence people in a way to help them understand there's a whole world out there can change their lives, change how they see things, and open them up to so much more too. And I can ramble on and on because there's so many different things to unpack in this
No, you're it.
conversation.
You're dropping
But
the gems.
I thoroughly like. I don't know if you heard, like, check out that documentary, Court of Gold.
Because I'm
It's
trying to remember
really
if I
good.
seen it. Why should I put it on? I'm like, I seen it because I'm a documentary junkie. I've seen a lot, but I've seen one with him in it. But if you're saying the Court of Gold, because it wasn't just him, it was different ones, right?
So it was the 2024 men's basketball Olympic team, and it featured the U.S.,
Okay.
Canada, Serbia, um, and Paris. So it's almost like the rest of the world is catching up to the US. You had the dream team back in 96, the first or 92, that first dream team where the NBA players came on.
Right.
But one person was saying what it did was it exposed the rest of the world to that elite type of play. And then everybody else started elevating, you know. And so now it's to the point where like they almost took a L in the semifinals and they almost took a L in the finals, and they had their best people. It's so motivational.
Oh, I
And
have to go. If I'm not remembering, I need to go back and see them because I can't recall that what you're saying. But I thought
it's
I'd seen Kevin Durant in the documentary.
well,
Unless he
probably
has a separate
because
one.
he's been on, Kevin's been
Yeah.
around for a minute, and then this is his fourth Olympic team, fourth gold.
Right.
But it's inspirational in so many different aspects of your life.
Right.
Just watching certain things, especially sporting events, where it just you push yourself beyond a certain beyond a certain like point, and to push yourself to that point or to beyond the point that you think you could do, based on what you're doing mentally, and just being like, of course, mental health is huge. And in sports, they say things are 90% mental.
You know,
And so pushing yourself in that, listening to them walk through what they were thinking, how they calmed themselves down in certain situations where it's huge moments of pressure. You had Barack Obama saying, I was known as the person who was the president who wants everybody to, get along and, come together and let's work together, US and everybody. But he was like, when it came to basketball, no, we're supposed to win, and to come second, to come third is a failure. And so you have all that pressure on you as an Olympian, especially men's basketball, because they basketball is the US and we started it. Like,
right.
to lose on that platform, it's a lot of pressure. And so watching them navigate that process and listening to what they were thinking in different steps of it, and when things looked like they were going to, lose, what they did to pick themselves up out of that resonates in every aspect of people's lives. Like, I can use it today in my life. Like, how do I get, everybody deals with different pressure points. How do I mentally get myself in the space to know that I'm here for this moment. I can do it. What am I using to give myself the confidence that I need? Where is it coming from? Is it some, like, for me, it's spiritual. Knowing who I am, knowing my identity, and knowing that, you know, with God I can do anything. And so I move that way. That's how I identify myself. And so when things come up against me, I'm not worried, because I feel like I have God has my back and I'm going to be just fine. But yeah, so I can,
But see,
again.
that's there's a couple of points you make that I like, but and so that's my thing, right? When I even say use your platform, use who you are. You brought up with Kevin Durant being there and just being moved by all the people cheering for him, and imagine vice versa. This is an opportunity for us in entertainment or sports or whatever to bring unity versus division, and to speak on those principles that help us to actually overcome when there is division, and or just show that, or find ways to drop those buckets, or like you said, you have a belief, something that helps you stand. So if you have a belief, as an Olympian, as this, as that, not to push anything down anyone's throat or mind, but to just live how you are and to show that particular unity. Don't you think that is also speaking up, and you catch the eyes and the ears and the hearts of individuals that are watching you, and help to perpetuate unity versus division?
Absolutely. Absolutely. When he said it, he was really referencing just all of the negative things that may be going on at the time. That brings a level of peace to it. It's like, no, this is how things should be. And that in itself was a message to me. And, I believe in it anyway. But just, I never thought, and it allowed me to see from his perspective.
Right.
You don't necessarily think about the fact that this is how he grew up, and he didn't see
Right.
that, because that wasn't my experience. I saw people communicating with each other, and I didn't experience that. So it also takes you into other people's world, so that you empathize and understand that everybody doesn't have the same experiences that I have. And because they
Absolutely.
don't, I need to listen to them and just realize that, hey, let's share together. Let's share our experiences. Let me listen to your perspective. And because your life is different, your perspective is going to be different, and that's okay.
I like
How
that.
can we come together and create something that's gonna, invoke people to want to show love to one another instead of hate?
And that's the part I'm talking about, because it doesn't always have to be about, I want to convince you to move this direction, I want to convince you to move that direction, but using your platform to focus on, speak on those things and inspire those things that help us become a whole person, an athlete in life, to help us there. Because the more we all become, I believe, an athlete of life, to dismantle this fear, or not just dismantle, because fear is a part of sometime what motivates you, push you. I'm not talking about unhealthy fear. I'm not talking about analysis or paralysis. I'm talking about that thing that gives you that that makes you. If athletes show and speak up to or on just becoming that athlete in life and inspiring individuals, I think those little things will help pull us together as individuals. We always talk about change the world, or we're depending on politics, or we're depending on this. If we're not changing or learning how to be the best us individually, to me, that is what's causing us to not get traction in a lot of things. And that's why I believe who does the most sacrifice, miraculous things, who moves hearts and souls, are those individuals. And you can't parse out, yes, you have this talent, but there's things that you have mastered to master you in that talent that helps, that I believe is transferable to life, period. And I believe in, just speaking up on those things as what you should do as a person, as well. Now, with that said, I know we do have our balances, right? So when I say speak up to, I know it immediately probably go to some viewers and listener minds, like the very harsh things that people feel like, okay, well, I want to watch a game. I don't want to see this, crazy political thing or speaking up or resistance going on right here. And I can understand that sometimes too. I do also believe there is a balance. There's a time, there place, space on certain things. And there's times that it just has to happen because you may capture the moment and you may not get that moment again. But what I do believe is that when we're in other people spaces, it makes me think about, as an attorney, I talked about this on the last episode. When I was offered positions to go into other law firms, I decided not to go because I knew I had a certain vision and mission, and it would be unfair, unwise, unprofessional to take a position to go somewhere else to push my way of providing legal. If I want to do it that hard, instead of going somewhere causing disruption, start your own thing. So I do understand sometimes when you're on certain people platforms, you can't just think you can do what you want and how you want. It's strategic, but you can use those platforms to continue to build power to now do things even off those platforms. What do you think about that? I know it's a whole mouthful.
Absolutely. No. I think it's important to know what your mission is and be intentional about, like, if you are using your platform, what are you using it for? What story do you want to tell? What are you trying to accomplish? That's really important. Um, I know that um, it's this day and age of social media, it's very different when I came up.
Okay.
And it takes things, it takes a lot of mental fortitude to navigate this. And so you have to know who you are, and you have to be able to drown out the noise. Otherwise, like, just even looking at social media and it's a little bit of everywhere, you'll be a little bit of everywhere in the things you say and the things you do. It's like being able to channel that energy from,
Yes.
or the discipline from being an athlete, to focusing on certain things and being intentional about what your platform is. Don't just jump on there educating yourself. Yes, people may not want to get involved in politics, but and you hear it sound cliche, but we have a civic duty to to understand certain things. We don't necessarily do that. They're not teaching it anymore, but things are happening, and that's going to impact the lives of the people you love. Things like that. It's important for us to educate ourselves and to speak on those things once we educate ourselves. It's so much propaganda, and one of the things you learn from traveling, Elocution, I know you know that different news is you hear different things when you're in other countries. It's
Exactly.
almost like, wait a minute, this is
Exactly.
happening. It's like
Exactly.
certain things you're not even told or don't understand. So it's important for you to educate yourself and make sure that you're not just being used, um, through propaganda to push a narrative because you didn't really do your due diligence in understanding what it is. But there are some basic things and basic liberties that we have that people fought for. There are basic changes that are happening legislatively that, it's a lot to, it can be a lot to unfold. But one of the things that one of the places you can start is like sometimes getting involved locally in those issues that you're passionate about. There's some type of nonprofit group that's focusing on that specific issue. And sometimes you'll find that that nonprofit is also getting involved in pushing the legislators to pass legislation that's going to support those things. Like that's how you can kind of get involved and educate yourself a little bit more about that thing you may be passionate about, and you can see more immediate change, especially on the local level. But it's a lot of stuff happening now, and people need to educate themselves and listen and be involved in that process. And it's so many layers to it, but it's not. It's so many layers
Yeah.
to understand it, but you have to start somewhere and get involved so that you can be a part of it. But one big thing that we see is the division and the negativity. And the Bible says the greatest of these things that we're supposed to do is love. And that is not what we're seeing. And so if even if on your platform you are pushing love and respecting your neighbors and things like that, like not trying to disguise it in pushing love. Let me
No, I
not.
100% agree with you. And that's what I was saying, because I know some people may listen and say, well, I know you're saying I need to lower politics, but I really don't want to speak up this way or no. It doesn't mean, because when I'm saying at least understanding, using your voice, we do have political discord, but we have life discord. It can be those things that are affected by legislation or this or that. You don't have to go in that, but pay attention to what's there. Come out of that. What can you contribute? What nonprofits can you contribute to that's helping to better, educate, better communities, better these things? These things is what's going to help us as a people that are being affected by these other political things. You see what I'm trying to say? You don't have to be in it
Right.
politically. You pay attention to what's going on and now use your platform to make a situation better. I think sometimes we be in our silos. I got mine, you get yours.
Hmm.
If we want change, we can't depend on a person, a piece of paper. We can't depend on anything that's going to magically make that change. I was just talking to somebody earlier. I will actually be 50 years old next month.
I'm right
So
behind you.
yeah, so since 1975, there were at least 10 presidents, I think I counted. I'm still here right now, almost 50, talking about stuff that was talked about, obviously, when I was born and throughout. So it's not depending on a person in a party or this. Those things are going to do its thing. But at
Right.
some point, we have to use our platform to, one, just effectuate, again, positive change to move in a different direction. How can we create more owners? How can we create more situations where there is equality in educating different individuals, no matter what community you are in? How can we create these things that can offset things that people may disagree on, instead of focusing on dividing, arguing, and hating each other because you don't agree on it? When do we take that action? We have to do something different. It's been all these years and we keep talking about different things. Educate yourself on legislation, involve yourself. If it's something that you have passion, great. But educate yourself and learn how you can take what you learned, bring it over here, use a platform, and make a change somewhere else that would help either push that thing or offset that thing. That's what I believe that we need to start doing, especially when we're talking about, at the end of the day, the equalizer color is green. When you have an opportunity to get green, when you have an opportunity to do that, which is leverage, how are we using our leverage? It's, to me, when you're in a position to have that platform of green, you have to take some of it and use it to actually effectuate change. That, to me, is also speaking up. And that's why I brought up earlier with Aretha Franklin. She didn't say, I want to get on here and I'm going to say rah, 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 rah about Angela. She just said, oh, someone got arrested that's doing great things, making disruption. Hey, I'm going to go ahead and make sure I post her bail, right? So she used her green, her platform, that leverage. What are we doing to use the leverage we have to move things forward instead of depending on someone or someone's or a piece of paper to make that happen? So that's where I stand as far as stop being silent, use your platform, and why every platform matters. And like to your point, you mentioned earlier, imagine how one athlete move a bunch of rooms, and the ones who actually want to suppress or snatch it, and that's why people do fear it. I'm going to get it snatched away. I fear backlash if I do certain things, even if it's not political. If I just even show that I'm standing for something, then I'm fearing backlash that I may get for that may affect me, and I'm not trying to affect my pocket. I mean, what do you feel about the fear of the backlash? Is why a lot of people just try to stay completely away, even if it's not to speak about politics. I just don't want to show, because there was backlash with LeBron James building these schools and all this different stuff. But what do you feel about that backlash?
So I think it depends on like what position you're in and what you're speaking up about. Like if it's something that's impacting a large amount of people, sometimes you have to navigate things in a way like mobilize people, organize first so that there's collective action. There's power in numbers. And if something is that strong that needs to be said, then one person saying it is one thing, but are they going to come after 50 people? And so sometimes it takes having one-on-one conversations behind closed doors a little bit at first to decide this is what our message is going to be. Because there's one thing too, okay, I'm going to speak and then what? But
And
then
then
it's
what?
a whole nother thing when you actually create change. And so your platform is strong depending on what level you are. Like LeBron James is a whole nother level. Yeah, the money and the resources and all that, but when 50 people are saying the same thing or 100 people are saying the same thing or sometimes even 10, it there becomes that ripple effect, and people may start listening, and whatever it is that you're trying to achieve, then you're more likely to be heard and more likely to be able to move the needle when you're when you mobilize and you're more strategic about how it's done. And so sometimes it's not always as soon as I feel something, okay, I'm gonna say it. No, let me think about this. Let's weigh different things. How is this going to be the most effective? Like this needs to be said. This may not be the time. Choosing the right time, choosing the right allies, and and using your collective platform to then move the needle or cause that movement to actually move things. Like you said, you hear a lot of talking about it.
Yes.
But what are we going to do? And so a lot of times what you want to say is what others want to say and how they feel too. But people are scared to stand alone.
And that
And that
happened
collective action with
too.
people who are like you can make a huge difference too. What were you saying? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're right. Because that happens. And sometime I believe a lot of entertainers and athletes, and they fear because some of them experience that in a sport, like speaking up about possibly how the sport is. A lot of them get backlash, or they don't even speak up because they don't feel like they have the number. We need the numbers before we speak up. They understand that, but never get the numbers. And so that also carries over to life. I fear backlash. And to your point, I think is a great point. Well, if you're someone who can effectuate change, impact change, not just talk about change, then maybe behind the doors, get those numbers. But I guess one of the toughest things is getting in the minds of individuals that your platform matters and that you do have power. You just you have to know how to exercise it. And your power doesn't mean just come out trying to powerfully hammer a point or be whatever. It's about being strategic and how to use your powers. And one of the things, like you said, there's even more powers in numbers. And so that is, I believe, a good response to how do you deal with the fear versus responsibility. If you have a responsibility, don't let fear consume you. Figure out, how can I execute my responsibility? And it may be that it has to be more numbers, and more importantly, numbers in private. I think a lot of things that have been dismantled, taken down, stopped, and why it wasn't moved forward is because there was too much being done in public on everything. Too much speaking on public, too much talking about the plan in public. Anything that has moved the needle, trust me, it was talked about in private. Anybody, any groups that moved anything, it's not a public platform of protest on it. They knew there's conversations that have to be had behind, and then there's action that has to be done in front. And I think that applies to everyone in all things. And especially if athletes are going to do it, there's private things that have to be done. Then when it's time, there's action in public that needs to be done, not talking, not just telling people what needs to be done. So that is a good point. Other than Kevin Durant, what is an example of an athlete that you feel that really impacted you, or, used their platform in a way that inspired you or
Mm,
nudged you in a way of some type of change, if any at all?
I mean, you mentioned a lot, like throughout the civil rights movement, the stances that were taken by different athletes. We have Tommy Smiths and the
Yes.
in the Muhammad Ali's, and let me think of a modern day athlete. I mean, well, no, he's not an athlete.
Because even
Entertainer,
even
entertainer, huh? Huh?
even Allison Felix, like even some of the things that because
Yeah.
I bring up, because, and this is why I want people to see, is it don't always have to be tied to this thing. It's
Thank
so
you.
many different ways that's effectuating that change. And I believe a change that happens, you looked at it, and some people may look at it in the small view of, oh, that's just Nike and this, but that actually effectuates change on the bigger scale in and off the sport. I mean, is that
Yeah,
someone who,
absolutely. Allison is a prime example. You mentioned that a lot of times they want athletes to be silent, but when you think about your life as an athlete, is that long. Being an athlete, you're building your platform for what's next.
that's
And
it.
so you absolutely should be the one speaking up. Understanding that, I think it was Kiki Palmer, yeah, who said something about, she was given an interview with Shannon Sharp.
Yeah, I seen her interview with Club Shay Shay, Shannon Sharp, whatever,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah. So
Yes.
he's an athlete that's doing a lot of influencing. But one thing she said, she was like, I started thinking about my family, and she's like, I'm that one. I'm the person that's supposed to be this, that, and the other. And I'm just like, if everybody had in their
Come
mind that
on.
I'm the one, you know, things would be a little bit different. And so when you're thinking about that platform in the later, there is an expectation from of me. And just because someone else is in another arena, another profession, doesn't
Right.
disqualify you from being able to speak, because you are the one. You are that one. And one of the things too, Barack Obama said, he said, like, the more he moved up, he was like, okay, he was at Harvard and he realized, oh, I'm like the smartest man in the room. When he got into once he became a senator, and then once he became president, and once he was with world leaders, he was like, wait a minute. We put people on these big old like platforms, and we elevate them such, not understanding that you're the one too.
You're
And
the one
so
too.
being an athlete, what's that mean? Oh, you need what? You're the one. You're just as qualified, just as capable at uh, more than the next person. And so why not look at yourself as being that one? Put yourself in a position through education and making sure that you're intentional about what's being said and do things strategically, but you're just as qualified as the next person. And that's one thing, whether you're stepping into a room, whether no matter who you're dealing with, You can learn just like the next person can learn. Yes,
Right.
some people have certain expertise, but you're not trying to go do surgery on someone. You're having a conversation about things and you're moving the needle on current events or whatever. You can have that conversation and you're just as qualified to have it as anyone. And so understanding who you are, and that's what a lot of things boil down to. Your platform is bigger than you. It's being in the position to, again, affect others, change generations. And when you recognize and you're confident enough to know that I'm capable of speaking on this, I've done my research, bring it on. Let's have this conversation. You know, I think that makes a big difference, because you do have to look at what is motivating me to do what I'm doing.
Right.
Like, do I just want to speak up because I want to be seen, whatever, whatever. I mean, people do what they want for whatever reason they want to do it. But when your motivations are right, it makes a big difference in how people hear you. And if you're on a certain platform, you have followers already. So people are listening. And that will influence people, believe it or not. People, I'm sure you've had people come up to you and talk about how you've influenced them and you didn't even know they were watching.
Right.
So they're watching. And each of us, no matter whether you're an athlete or not, you're the one if you believe you are. So use whatever platform you may have, whether it's at work, whether it's in the grocery store, whatever, to try to change somebody's life or try to show somebody love. And even smiling, smiling
Absolutely.
goes a long way with some people. I walked past somebody in the grocery store and smiled, and they were like, "That made me feel something," you know. And so, but I've also been like, somebody's been like, "Smile." I'm like, "Oh, I need to smile." Smiling
Right.
makes a difference, you know. So just being intentional about your presence and knowing that your life is bigger than you and you can affect change sometimes with not even opening your mouth. Sometimes it's just a smile. But
I like that you said that because I just want to put a pin in this point right here. You're making what Obama saying as I moved up and I realized I got in these rooms, same here. I get in all these different rooms and I'm like, what? I will run circles around. You talking about a track star. You are my oval. I'll run circles around you. So what people have to realize is these tags, we're buying into these tags that we think qualify people for different things. And we have really what is the best word for? I'm not gonna say diminished, just kind of disrespected or put in place the tags of athlete. That tag that mean you don't have anything else here. You just have this to entertain me. You can't have the wit. So, but that's why I take it personal. I was an athlete. Did all of a sudden I change? Did all of a sudden I got something when I stopped running? I'm still that same person that was a track runner. That means I had value. I was, what did you just say? You're that it, you're that person. Been that. Even when I was an athlete, I'm still that person. So just because I don't run, now you say, oh, I have this tag of attorney or speaker. Now all of a sudden something just switched or changed. No, I'm that person that was this. And that's why I take it personal when people say, be something else other than an athlete, be something else other than entertainer, be this. I take it personal for two reasons. One, you can be more than one thing. Like,
yeah.
if I have a talent, a God-given talent, why are you suppressing that as if that's something bad and I need to focus on doing this? Why can't I exude my God-given talent that may open up doors for me to do X, Y, Z? If I do this, I can never do that? So that's why I take it personal with that. And then I also take it personal because, again, it's selective usage. If you're an athlete, you're useless unless this, because you're not qualified for a lot of things. You're useless if you're an athlete. But then on some points, but we need an athlete. You're useful for, again, either a narrative, agenda, whatever, useful for this, but you're useless. But like you said, as an athlete, I went in the same rooms then. I've sat with different agents, managers learn so many different things as an athlete. And I was just as savvy and can pick it up and have a conversation, whatever, whoever I need to have a conversation and whenever I need to. So that's why I take it personal when people say that. I'm
Right.
an example. I'm like, hello. When
Right.
you say
Right.
that,
Right.
athlete for life, I was an athlete. So what you're saying, I didn't have the wits, I didn't have the wherewithal, I was not that person when I was an athlete. So I had nothing to say.
Right.
So
And it goes back again to the fact that you're an athlete this long.
it,
So God has given you more than one talent. So of course, you know, and that mentality, I mean, it was the same mentality I had as an athlete. Like, I don't care if I just lost that race. I belong in this race and I'm going to win.
that's
I
it.
might lose again, but
That's
every time
it.
I step on that line, I am not going in there for second.
That's
You're
it.
going in to win. Sometimes you might win, sometimes you might lose, but every time I go in there, my mentality is I belong here. I don't care what they've said about you and the fact that you're going to beat everybody in the field. I belong here.
That's
And
it.
this is my race to win.
That's
You know,
it.
and so being confident and understanding who you are, no matter what space you're navigating, and making your presence known and being happy in victory and defeat. I'm not going to walk in that room with my head down when, back in the day, it was like you go in the lobby when people are doing well, they're being seen, and when they're not doing well, it's like they're hiding. And it's like, no,
Right.
that
Right.
moment doesn't define who you are. You are great regardless of whether you win or lose. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some, but you belong here and in this space, and there's nothing to hold your head down about. And so that's in every platform. I belong here in this space. I'm prepared. I'm ready. Let's compete, or let's have
Absolutely.
some positive dialogue, and let's come out of this, no matter what the outcome is. We can agree to disagree, but let's come out of this in a way that's things will remain positive. I'm going to be happy. I'm not knowing that being an athlete, it's so mental. You have to have that mentality. You have to have short-term memory when it comes to defeats and stuff like that. You have to know who you are. You have to be confident. And so that translates into all other different fields. Like, I mean, I work in the field now where it's like I'm learning some of what I'm doing, and still in the process of learning, but it's like, all right, you got this, you can do this, and
Right.
you belong in these rooms and this, that, and other. Even if you don't know all the information, you don't have to know all the information. You need to, I'm prepared, and there's a process to where if I don't know the information, we can caucus and we can, it's certain things we can do to let's get the information. But just being confident enough to know that, hey, I can go back and forth with you. I know my information. It's just a certain confidence you have to have instead of going in intimidated because you don't believe that you belong there.
Or listen to people tell you that you don't belong there, or you have a certain place and a position, and you're out
Mm-hmm.
of bounds when you come out that place and position because you're not a so and so, and you're not a so and so. You're an athlete.
Right.
You have nothing important to say. You just have something important to do. And if you're not doing that well, there's a problem. Or anything that you say, I'm going to dismiss it. No. So I want you to hear current athletes, up and coming kids, everything. If being an athlete has chosen you, it's all good. It's all right. You are still that person with a gift. That gift is not you. You are that entity, that portal that can do it, that has this particular gift to be used for whatever reason to be used. It doesn't diminish you as a person or disqualify your thoughts, your ideals, your voice, your action. If anything, you're given that gift to expand your platform, to amplify your thoughts, your ideals, your actions. And like Monique just said, being an athlete is about this amount of time. So the wisest thing, my thing, instead of thinking of being diminished, my thing is expand your mind. If you're an athlete, expand your mind into your territory, knowing that this is a seed that I was given to be fruitful and to multiply. Use that to do it. And you don't have to, when we just say don't be silent, speak up, help effectuate change. You don't have to be that person that's in front of a podium, this or that. Effectuate change and speak up with either your words, your actions, your collectiveness, your green, whatever it is. If you see there's a difference and something can be done to help the division, then use your platform. Any closing words from you, Mo?
No, I believe you said it all. I mean, just understanding that you are enough and that you do have something that can influence people and make a difference in people's lives, and remembering that if you change one life, you change generations. So holding that mantle and being in the expectation of changing generations as you navigate throughout your sports career or whatever that career may be. Be intentional about your interactions.
Be intentional. Thank you so much, Monique. I'm not going to
Thank,
hold you because I believe in respecting time.
thank you
Thank you
so
so
much
much
for
for
having me. I'm just really
absolutely
proud of
my
you.
pleasure. And I'll
Yes,
talk to
yes,
you
yes.
soon.
Okay. Take care.
All right. I'm so happy that Monique was able to share her perspective on everything. I didn't know if we was gonna line or not, and we did. It just is, and I love it. I thought the points that Monique raised brought everything in home. Just to recap it, um, ripple effect. Just understand that your voice have power, your platform have power, your gift have power, and the power is to have a ripple effect on whatever, whether you're in the front or in the back. Don't be silent. Silent means do nothing and just do for you. Speaking up and using your platform means you're doing something in the place and space in which you are comfortable and feel most powerful doing it, to have that ripple effect. Overcome the fear of backlash, right? And you can overcome that through numbers. You have power, but collect more power. And there's power in numbers. So if you're overcoming, and that's an issue with a lot of individuals who use platforms and are they use as an example of don't do that because it could change, and then everyone gets scared because they're just going out there doing it either by themselves or doing it in a way that is more reactive instead of responsive. Like Monique said, think about, why am I doing what I'm doing? Be very calculated on what you do, and then while you're calculated, don't just do it because everyone's doing it or it's a movement. Know that you do have a higher responsibility because you have a platform, and with that higher responsibility, be responsive and not reactive. And it may be, again, in private, doing what you need to do, maybe possibly building those numbers so you don't have to worry about fearing backlash versus your responsibility. And know there's different ways, again, like I said, to speak out. Really pay attention to that, and also know when to speak and when to actually listen. And that is where education comes in. That's what intelligence. We are already intelligent. Don't let anyone tell you because you are an athlete, you are an entertainer, and you're not any other tag that you're moving in the wrong space. We are individuals that have these different avenues to do what we do. But again, you had the wherewithal. Forget your avenue. You have the wherewithal. So just know, prepare yourself. If you're someone who's going to be upfront speaking, educate yourself, prepare yourself, and know you have one of the most powerful platforms to do that. If you're going to be behind, still educate yourself because you need to know what you're doing behind. So that's what we really talked about and wrapped it up. That applies to entertainers, that applies to athletes. Of course, we know community leaders and business owners. I believe we can start working together collectively as a community and stop depending on the old ways and old things. It has its place in position, of course, legislation, politics, all that great stuff has its place, but it's we the people. It's we the people. Pay attention to our platforms and our position and how we can collectively come together. With that said, that I'm going to wrap it up. That is it. So that's a wrap. Thank you again for tuning in. Thank you so much for adding value just by giving your time. And remember, the more you know, the more you grow. But when you share, you care. So make sure you share this. If you happen upon this at the later recording, please do share it. Don't keep knowledge to yourself. Spread the wisdom. Tag a friend. Let's elevate together. And until next time, I want you to keep striving. I want you to keep growing. And most importantly, keep seeking elevation. I want to leave you with this quote: silence isn't neutral. It is a choice. What will you choose? Until next Tuesday, have a great one.